Hi, I'm Melise Banks, and today I'm going to ask what is the difference between anxiety and depression? And they're actually two sides of the same coin. Now, I have definitely experienced both of these states of mind, and these conditions can be pretty awful. And I have to reassure you right now, firstly, that if you're experiencing either of these states, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you don't have to go through the rest of your life like this. So first, what is depression? Well, depression, and I'm going to simplify this very much so, is actually just a fear of the past. Now, I know that sounds very simple, but think about it. The person who is depressed is living in a state of fear about what's happened in their life so far, and they assume that this is just how life is. Life is as crap as it's always been. What's the point? And they have this hopeless kind of feeling. They get into the mood that basically life, what's the point? And it just shuts down their creative force inside. And so when you're not creating and growing, you're actually dying a bit inside. And this is how I've experienced depression in the past. Now, the funny thing about our memories of the past, because this is fear of the past, is that researchers have shown that we actually only remember accurately about 50%, about half of our memories. The other half are basically fantasized. We've kind of exaggerated them. So what we don't remember our past as accurately as we think we do. And what we do is we exaggerate the bad stuff that happened, and then we just assume that that's how life is. And someone who's stuck in depression is actually just stuck in the past. There's no hope. So this is pretty unhealthy, and it does wreak havoc on your body as well. So what is anxiety, the other side of the coin? Well, anxiety is actually fear of the future. So whilst the person with depression is living in the past, the person with anxiety is often living in the future. And the funny thing about the future is it doesn't exist. In fact, the future never exists. All we have is right now. So the only thing we can be worried about in the future is something that we make up, hallucinate, or project the bad stuff that happened in the past into the future and assume that's just how it's going to be in the future. So the future isn't real, so it's also illusory, so we're also fantasizing when we're in that state. So what can we do about this? How can we get out of these states? Well, firstly, realize that the only true place that exists is right now. The past doesn't exist and the future does not exist. So if there's no past and no future, then why spend any time in them? So the first thing is to stop and smell the roses. And that is a very famous saying, and it's very powerful because what it means is become present. Realize that you need to become present. Stop, smell the roses. So how do we get into the present moment? And I've got 3 steps for you. Step 1, slow your breathing. So what happens when you slow your breathing is you tell your body, and you tell that old reptilian brain that's pumping out stress chemicals of fight, flight, and freeze, that everything is actually okay. So motion leads to emotion. So when you change the motion of your breathing and slow it right down and do deep breaths, you actually change the emotion that you're experiencing and you'll get calm. The second step is to stop and look around. Then look for 3 things that you're grateful for right now. So that might be the food in front of you, or the blue sky, or maybe a friend that's with you. But that brings you straight into the present moment, and that's called mindfulness. And I just want to reassure you that with practice, this can become your new neural pathways, your new way of thinking, your new habit. But it does take practice. So that's step 3 is practice, practice, practice. It takes about 21 days to develop a new neural pathway, a new habit. So you need to consciously do that for a while. So catch yourself whenever you're living in the past in fear or hopelessness, and catch yourself and notice whenever you're living in the future fantasizing that illusory world that doesn't exist, and stop and go through the 3 steps. So I hope that I've helped you a little bit in understanding depression and anxiety. I have very much simplified it, so beware of that, but do practice what I've suggested, and you might find that you have maybe overcome a lot of your depression and anxiety. And it does take practice, and I can attest to this. It worked in my life. All right, well, please get in contact with me if you do need help with anxiety or depression.